Heads up, folks. Interest rates are falling. But as of September 23rd, 2024, you can still lock in a 6% or higher yield with a bond account at public.com. That's a pretty big deal because when rates drop, so can the interest you earn on your cash. A bond account allows you to lock in a 6% or higher yield with a diversified portfolio of high yield and investment grade corporate bonds. So while other people are watching their returns shrink, you can sit back with regular interest payments. But you might want to act fast because your yield is not locked in until you invest. The good news? It only takes a couple of minutes to sign up at public.com. Lock in a 6% or higher yield with a bond account. Only at public.com. Brought to you by Public Investing. Member FINRA and SIPC. Yield to worst is not guaranteed. Not an investment recommendation. All investing involves risk. Visit public.com/disclosures for more info.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. What's your perfect night? Is it curling up on the couch for a cozy, peaceful night in? Therapy can feel a bit like that. Your comfort place where you replenish your energy. With BetterHelp, get matched with a therapist based on your needs entirely online. It's convenient and suited to your schedule. Find comfort this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com.
Welcome to the Always On Point podcast with Kristen Ambos here. Today I am joined by the one and only Megan Jacqueton, who is the Vice President of Sales for Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group here in Wisconsin in the Midwest. Hello. How are you? I am good. I have been so looking forward to having you on the podcast. This is the very first episode that we are doing. And I felt like it was the best fit to not only have somebody in the real estate community, because I feel like that's the number one thing people are asking about right now is the nuts and bolts to what's going on in the market and all that good stuff. But before we get into that, I want you to help introduce yourself to the audience, who you are, what you do, and where you've been. So by all means.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks so much. And I will say I'm grateful that you asked me to be here and absolutely honored. I respect what you do so much and who you are, and you're also a dear friend too.
Same.
So as Kristen said, my name is Megan Jacqueton. I am Vice President of Sales for Wisconsin for Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group. My career started in real estate 10 years ago. I started with another firm and moved over to Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group in 2015. Was an agent there, top producing agent, and went into management in 2017, early 2017, and managed 4 offices in the Fox Cities and Wautoma up until April of this year, where I was asked to take the Vice President of Sales position for Wisconsin for our company, which that oversees 18 offices and just over 380 agents in Wisconsin.
I was going to say that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal.
I also have a pretty great group. So a big deal or not, it's a really fantastic group of people. Makes my job a lot easier.
Definitely. But from the first day I met you, I loved the fact that you were so adamant, so kind, but like, these are my people. And I want to make sure that I know, like, and trust you, because if you're managing an office of 100 real estate agents, 120 real estate agents, it's a big deal.
It is.
You were like, just nobody's getting back behind these doors.
No, and I think it's because we ask our agents to stay in touch and stay in front of their clients, because their clients will continue to use who they like, know, and trust. I can't ask them to do the same thing if I'm not leading by example. So I had to make sure that I liked you immediately, but to be able to
not to like.
I agree.
I'm just kidding.
I agree, but to trust it too.
Yeah,
because it had taken a long time for my realtors in my position to trust that when I was standing in front of them saying, this is a good product or this is a good person to trust with your clients with, I couldn't break that trust either. So I had to make sure that once I knew that things were vetted through with you, that I could put you in front of that group too and saying like, this is the person, this is our person, as an option for you to use with your clients too.
And coming from our side of things, on the lending side of things, it was so awesome and so refreshing to see you doing that, because so often it's, well, what are you going to pay me?
Right. Yes.
If you write me a check, then you can come in my office and then maybe I'll talk. Oh, and then if you don't, then we'll just get somebody else to write the check, and then we'll just get somebody else to write the check.
Right.
And before you know it, you've had 10 lenders.
Correct.
How do you tell your team who to really trust when all you're looking for as a team lead is a monetary exchange?
And we've never structured it that way. I felt it was important to lead by example, that if I'm putting somebody in front of our group of agents, that it's somebody that I know that they can trust their clients with too.
Yeah. And I was just so darn fortunate to even have an opportunity to do that. And then just over the years working with you and the agents within, the Coldwell Banker real estate group has just been incredible.
Yeah.
So,
but also I feel like every single bit of that has been earned, and I did the easy part. I think you had the hard part of making sure that, you consistently, like it was a do as you say and say as you do. You constantly brought that for them, which is why you've maintained the relationships and had the success that you have had too, is because of that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, it's a big, hold your word, right?
Absolutely.
It's an old school tactic that's still true to this day, is say what you mean what you say.
Absolutely.
And follow up with it. So no, I love that. Now, going a little bit further on your accord so that people understand where you are at now, Vice President of Coldwell Banker, hands elbow deep into every part of real estate that there is.
Yes, try to get into my hands into every single corner and facet that I can. I'm on the board of directors for the Wisconsin Realtors Association.
Yes.
That was a recent position. I just had my first meeting with the board last week, actually.
Yeah.
And it was a phenomenal experience being in a room with exceptional leaders within the state of Wisconsin, in the Realtors Association, and with the vast changes that we've had to our industry, to be really truly in a room full of thinkers, people who are every single day protecting our industry, being the leaders in our industry, not just within the state, but within the country. It was an amazing experience, and to be in that room, to continue to be in that room in the future, is an exceptional honor too.
Huge.
It is.
Huge.
And part of our responsibility is to listen to our agents and to say, where are you seeing the gaps? Where are you seeing the holes in this industry? How can we help you? And then me taking that information to the board and saying, this is where we need help.
Right.
And how can we best help changes within the industry?
Right.
And on the same token, how can we best pose homeowners in a good light and making sure they're staying protected too?
Right. Well, and it's so, I feel like this year is even more exacerbated because of everything that's going on with home buyers and sellers, the positions that they're in, the inventory situation, commissions, just everything. So you being on that board is a huge testament to who you are, but then also, in speaking from those of us who are part of the industry, but don't maybe know everything that happens there, you guys are fighting for the rest of us to make sure we're in a really good environment, a really good housing market.
Absolutely, because this expands so much further than our contracts in Wisconsin, which are incredible. We are the leaders in the country when it comes to that, but also the protection of homeowners. Yeah, I think that is a big piece that a lot of members who are not terribly involved in their local association or state association don't realize how much the WRA has to do with that.
What would you say, and I know this is kind of off the whim, but what would you say is the number one thing that WRA is working on right now?
Homeowners,
or one of the top things.
Yeah, I would say homeowners' rights, but also showing our value to our members. Right, is a great thing. I think that with recent shake up with the NAR and the lawsuit that came through, there's a lot of conversation of, well, where's the value? Where's the value with us belonging to NAR? Where's the value with us belonging to the Wisconsin Realtors Association? And really making sure that our realtors, from brand new agents to broker owners, continue to see the value that we bring from the national and the state level.
Right. And then that's coming through. I hope the audience really understood that. Like, this is coming through and being led right from here in the Green Bay Fox Valley area, with you having a voice for all of them.
Yes.
So it is as local as it can possibly be.
Yes. This expands well beyond the walls of Coldwell Real Estate Group.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's where I'm really hoping that my position within the state board allows for more and more conversations to allow to be happened with other brokers in the Fox cities, in Green Bay and Fond du Lac, where we can continue to have those conversations and saying what truly matters to you within your own business, within your own firm, within your company, that we can, as a state, as a member of the Wisconsin Realtors Association, what can we do to continue to show value and to make this industry even stronger?
Yeah. That's incredible. I love it.
Yeah.
And I know one of the tough pieces right now, I think realtors are dealing with, is inventory.
Yes.
So can you bring some light to our audience on the housing inventory right now?
Absolutely. I feel like it's been a buzzword for so many years now that it's almost gotten watered down, and people aren't realizing when inventory changes and we see a big swing, there's still the rhetoric of there's inventory problems.
Right.
So as I speak today more about the numbers, understand that these numbers are coming from the Realtors Association of Northeast Wisconsin, which is the MLS board, the Multiple Listing Service Board, basically from north of Green Bay to south of Fond du Lac. And
so they're legit numbers.
They're legit numbers.
They're not numbers that you just made up.
These are not numbers
Okay,
I'm making
great.
up. And these are numbers I pulled as recent numbers as of last night, which would have been November 3rd.
Yeah.
So as of last night, we're looking at about 1,400 homes in Northeast Wisconsin that don't have offers on them. Residential properties.
Maybe there are some houses when people are looking that are available.
There is. There's a few houses, and a third of those are in that like $250,000 to $400,000 range.
Okay.
And in that under $250,000 range, we have almost a quarter of those in that under $250,000 range, which is huge because your first time home buyer is never that. We kind of, I think we're programmed to be like a first-time home buyer is under $250,000.
Right.
That's not the case necessarily, but we tend to forget now that some of those first-time home buyers are in that $150,000 to $250,000 range. Mm-hmm. So when we say a first-time home buyer, as a realtor, we typically look up to $400,000 when we're dealing with a first-time home buyer. That's why I pulled these numbers specifically, because your first-time home buyer is in a range of pricing.
All over the board.
All over the board. And really depending on what market you want to move into, that number could be $250,000 in one market and $350,000 in another market.
Right.
All within the Fox cities.
Well, and I think it's always too, like, just to quickly point out, I've got a first-time home buyer right now that's 62 years old.
Yes.
She's never owned a home before. She's always rented. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people out there in all different age groups. So they're all different positions in life.
Yeah.
So they can afford a little bit of everything. So I do think it's good that you point out that there are some at, 100 to 150, but then also all the way up to 400.
Right. And I also think it's...
Or higher, depends.
Right. And then there's this mindset of this, it's impossible to find a home for $150,000 or $200,000. And that's also not the case. As a buyer, though, being willing to be flexible about geographically where you want to live.
Right.
Because that does matter. That does create, if you want to live, in Green Bay or in De Pere or in Neenah or Menasha or Appleton, and you have a price point of $150,000, be willing to be flexible with where that house is located.
Well, and with the logistics of everything nowadays, it's not like it was 20 years ago where people on the west side of Green Bay wouldn't even go to the east side of Green Bay to live.
Yes.
Now you can get anywhere. Like, I drive from Green Bay to Appleton almost daily.
Right.
30 minutes.
Right.
It still takes me 25 minutes to get the far east side of De Pere. So it's not any different right now when we're saying keep your eyes and your mind open to logistically where you want to be.
I live in Southwest Neenah, and we're recording today in De Pere, and it was 37 minutes door to door.
Yeah.
I mean, truly, the Fox cities, I feel like people think there's this line when you get north of Appleton that like De Pere and Green Bay are in a different state.
Time zones, different time zones.
Completely different time zones. And it's not. I mean, these are truly, if you don't mind a 30-minute drive, which quite frankly, that decompression time.
I love it.
Catch up on your podcast, listen to some music, or just sit in quiet and peace.
Yes.
Which I do none of the above, by the way. I make my phone calls, but
On the phone the whole time, yeah.
However, sometimes that decompression time is really good too.
It is.
Worth its weight in gold sometimes.
I couldn't agree more.
Right.
One of my favorite parts of the day is getting in and just going, okay,
Right.
I've got a little downtime right now.
Exactly.
So,
I think we talk about inventory too. So to expand on that conversation, talking about the median list price.
Yes.
So when we say, our homes, over half that inventory available is 400,000 and under, but our median list price of all of those homes available are 394,000. So when you pull every home that's available from 0 to 5 million for a list price,
Right.
your median list price for all those available homes right now is $394,000, which really speaks to that $400,000 price point kind of reigning supreme.
it is. And you putting that median on it. So, we are also, and I know in my career and yours as well, you used to get $1 million house around here and you'd be like, what?
Yes.
That was massive.
Yes.
Now we've got listings at 1.5, 2 million, 3 million. Like,
Correct.
Our areas are really growing.
They really are. They really are.
So having a 400,000 in the grand scheme of things, having a $400,000 median price isn't too bad.
It's not. And again, taking into account, this is for every price point. I didn't hone in on saying like, give me everything that's under 500,000 because we do have a lot of buyers in that $600,000, $700,000, $800,000
There
price
are a
point.
lot, correct.
But there's also a lot of inventory in that price point too. And your new construction is showing up heavily and readily available in that 600 to 800 price point.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I would agree. I would agree with what I'm seeing on my end as well.
And when we look at as far as inventory goes too, there's been so much conversation the last few years about home prices being out of control and pricing for homes going up 20% year over year over year. And at what point does that slow down? At what point does home ownership have to take a back seat to everything else because it is now out of reach? And that's the beauty of this is we have some good news now.
I agree. So I feel like twofold. One, so many people forget that there was like a 5 or 6 year gap where houses never appreciated.
Correct.
But yet still had owners, still paying bills on them,
Let's
still
talk
moving.
about the housing market straight out of the recession.
Right.
And how long some of those markets took to bounce back.
Right. So to have a quick bounce back is no different than if they would have slowly appreciated
Correct.
for all of those years, like 4 or 5% for 4 or 5 years. I mean, you're talking 20, 25% right there.
I don't know that the average consumer, homeowner, or home buyer was expecting a 20% year over year for 2.5 years in a row though either. Where suddenly they had a ton of equity.
Right.
But buyers are like, wait a second. If I'd bought that house 2 years ago, I'd have paid $300,000. Now I have to pay $375,000 for that house.
Right.
And I think that was a tough pill for them to swallow. So the good news is we're seeing appreciation in Northeast Wisconsin right around 7% now.
Yeah.
And
I was just going to say it's holding steady
It
over
is.
5 or 6, isn't it?
it is.
Right
So
in that area.
A healthy, balanced market is right around that 5 to 6%.
Yes.
We're seeing 7%. And that's, I would say, the reason I say that's good news is there's still healthy growth.
Yeah.
And healthy growth as a home buyer, it's not an astronomical number. As a home seller, you're still getting good equity in your home when you're
Right.
looking to sell. And I think that's why those numbers are so important to know. Educating yourself as a buyer, knowing what it is you're getting into, knowing that when you're purchasing, you're making an investment that is going to appreciate in value.
Long term.
Absolutely. And as a homeowner, knowing what your home is worth. It is so important. Homeowners typically don't know what their home is worth. They see stuff online. They pop onto real estate websites. They kind of get this random number, but those aren't apples for apples. They're apples for oranges, and sometimes apples for giraffes. Right? It doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
They're not the same house. I mean,
No.
everybody's house has different nuances and different updates or no updates. But knowing really what your home is worth, that's where your equity is. That's where your value is.
Right.
And I think that's a good time to segue into, we talk about interest rates.
Yes.
Right?
I was just going to say, now that healthy growth.
Yes.
And what a lot of people don't, because they're still not hearing 3 or 4%. So they're like, rates are still high, but rates are still down in the 6s, almost 1.5 to 2 points down from where they were a year ago.
Yes.
So now we have low interest rates, lower interest rates.
Lower, yes.
Plus we've got healthy growth. Why would you not buy right now?
Exactly. And I also think that when we talk about high interest rates and low interest rates, it's a relative term.
I agree.
And we have to all keep in mind what had to happen in order for interest rates to get to 2.5% and 3%.
Yes.
And I don't know about y'all, but I don't need a repeat of that.
No.
At all.
No.
At all.
No.
So understanding that if we look at a 40-year projection of what interest rates have been, or 40-year history of what interest rates have been, we're still sitting in a really good spot. So
Yes.
those people who are hunkered down in their 2.5% interest purchase also have to realize that since they made the 2.5% purchase, their home value, the equity they have in that property is massive.
So massive.
And calling up your realtor, the one that you like, know, and trust, and
Yes.
say, could I get a value on my property?
Right.
Could you run a market analysis for me? If your realtor isn't reaching out to you, reach out to them.
Yeah.
And know
absolutely.
what your home is worth, because that takes a lot of sellers off the fence on whether or not they want to sell. And there's that inventory word again.
Right.
Where's the inventory? We have inventory, but there's a lot more inventory that could get potentially unlocked once sellers knew what type of equity they have in their home.
You bring me on to just a quick topic, and you and I have talked about this before, with the amount, and I don't want to go down a big rabbit hole.
Let's rabbit hole it. Let's rabbit hole.
Let's go right in. Of the consumer debt that's out there right now.
Yes.
So as an example, I've worked with a lot of people in the last couple of months, and you and I have talked about this, where they're coming to me with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 of credit card debt.
Yeah.
Right? And they're locked in on this 2.5% interest rate on their mortgage, yet they can't figure out how they're going to get out of this credit card debt because they are on hourly or salary and things of that nature. And when you do, and I've put it together when I've ran blended interest rates for clients, even though they're going to be going to like maybe a 6.5% or 7% interest rate, the blended rate is actually like 5.5%.
Yes.
Because they're paying all that money at 20 to 30% in credit cards.
30. And I think that's something that we like is not even talked about, is how many of these companies have they've sent you their notice via email or in the mail, and we try to chuck it as garbage mail or junk mail, but your interest rates have likely increased 10% on your credit cards.
100%, if not 20%.
If not 20%, yes.
And so what I'm hearing now, just kind of going full circle here, kind of off the cuff, but okay, I can use my equity. I can call my real estate agent, sell my house, get rid of all of my debt because I don't know how else I'm going to do it, and still have 1,400 homes to choose from and still purchase a home.
Yes.
So I'm not having to go back to rent.
Right.
So look at, and that's a fresh start.
It is.
That you could have for yourself, sleep at night if you're one of those people.
Cleaning the slate and being able to hit the reset button financially. Because as you said, the consumer debt is, while there's a lot of pieces that play into that, at the end of the day, you can't get away from the interest rate that you're paying on those.
No.
And it's the kind of the tail wagging the dog when you get to that point. So unlocking that equity that you have in your property and being able to purchase something in the same market that you're in, and being able to just leave everything from that debt in the past to be able to move forward.
Right. And knowing that, maybe you're giving up a low interest rate, but think about the life you're going to get back.
Correct.
For a 1.5%, 2% blended rate higher. I mean, that's really nothing when you think about it.
Correct.
To getting your life back. And so many people, come back and I don't even know how this happened to me.
Right.
Well, no, when you're compounding 25% interest month over month, that's how it happened to you. You never saw it coming. It happened. And before you knew it, you went, how in the heck? And your real estate and that investment is something that you can utilize to help get yourself out of those situations.
Absolutely.
Bad things happen to good people all the time. You've heard me say that
For
throughout
sure.
my whole
For
career.
sure.
It doesn't mean that you got into a mess. Maybe you did. It doesn't matter, but there is a solution out of it.
There is. And again, knowing how much equity and what kind of equity you have in your home is very important.
Yeah.
Being an educated homeowner is a power like no other.
It really is. It brings you to a whole new level.
Right. And for some people, it's not even about taking out the equity to pay off credit cards or to buy into another home.
Right.
It's taking equity to make their dreams come true. And that might be buying investment properties,
Yes.
buying rental properties, buying commercial properties, doing something with that. I mean, I'm on a BHAG kick right now. And that's your big, hairy, audacious goal. What's your BHAG?
Yes.
Right. And so do you have equity in your home and you love where you're at and you're cool with where your interest rate is, but you know you've got some serious equity in your house? Do something with it.
Yeah.
Make something really cool. Make a legacy for yourself. Make a legacy for your family.
Yeah. I'll be the first one. And I'm pretty open about the things I do with our mortgage. For instance, like I'm very open about the fact that we have a VA. We fought like other people out there to get the home we wanted using a VA, even though I'm a lender and things of that nature. But the other thing we did was we tapped into our equity to buy another property.
Yes.
Because it was still less expensive than using our own cash.
Yes, same.
And we could invest our own cash and do that. So there's ways that you can go about doing that as well.
Absolutely. And we did the same thing.
Yep.
We did the same thing. My husband and I have several single family residential properties and commercial property with an apartment upstairs as well. And using the power of our equity within our own home to be able to do these things and to leave a legacy for our daughter.
Right. And I'm guessing that most realtors out there right now are never going to be offended by their old client or a past client or a client now calling them saying, can you give me an up-to-date CMA on my home?
Absolutely. So here's my little plug.
Yes. I love it. Plug it.
If you're a realtor and you're listening to this,
Yes.
2 things. No client should ever be a past client. They should always be a client.
Do you hear me correct myself?
I sure did. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yes.
No client should ever be a past client.
agree with
They're
you.
always a client.
Yep.
And the second part is if you haven't reached out to any of the sales that you've had in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, start doing it. Start showing these owners, these clients of yours, how much equity they have in their home. What they want to do with that, let them know their options. Say, here's a few options you have, but they don't know what they don't know. We are their experts. That's why they hire us. Utilize that, unlock that for them.
And even as a consumer, if I don't want to do anything yet, it's no different than watching watching your 401k go up and up. There's a feeling about that feels good.
Yes.
And your realtor will give you that. They want you to be a client for life.
They do.
And so they're willing to go out and help you understand what that is, or buy a new house, sell, things like that. So that's a pretty neat position to be in.
It is. It's no different than your insurance salesperson calling you every year saying, let's review your life insurance.
Let's review where you're at.
Let's review your policies. Let's review the largest purchase you've ever made in your life and see how much money it's made you so far.
Gosh, I think that's a perfect way to end this because I think you're dead on. So, well, thank you, Megan, so much for coming in, being our very first guest. I know there's so many people in the audience that want more information. Like they're thriving for this information.
Yes.
And it's important for us to bring it to them. So I really appreciate you being so forthright with the numbers of Northeast Wisconsin where we're at. And thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kristen.
Yeah, you got it. For those of you listening today to our podcast with Megan Jacquet, VP of Sales at Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group, and you took a little nugget from it, you want some more information, please get a hold of me and I will put you in touch with her or any realtor that maybe you don't have one that you know, like, and trust and need one. I'd love to put you together with one of those to do so. Getting a CMA is a super important thing to do right now in knowing your equity. For those of you who are listening, we are on weekly. You can find us on all the major podcast stations as well as YouTube and any of our social medias. So thank you so much for being a part of it, and we'll see you soon.
Listen up, folks. Time could be running out to lock in a historic yield at public.com. As of September 23rd, 2024, you can lock in a 6% or higher yield with a bond account. But here's the thing. The Federal Reserve just announced a big rate cut, and the plan is for more rate cuts this year and in 2025 as well. That's good news if you're looking to buy a home, but it might not be so good for the interest you earn on your cash. So, if you want to lock in a 6% or higher yield with a diversified portfolio of high yield and investment-grade bonds, you might want to act fast. The good news? It only takes a couple of minutes to sign up at public.com. And once you lock in your yield, you can earn regular interest payments even as rates decline. Lock in a 6% or higher yield with a bond account at public.com. But hurry, your yield is not locked in until you invest. Brought to you by Public Investing, member FINRA and SIPC. Yield to worst is not guaranteed. Not an investment recommendation. All investing involves risk. Visit public.com/disclosures for more info.
It can get lonely climbing Mount McKinley, so to entertain myself, I go to ChumbaCasino.com. At Chumba Casino, I can play hundreds of online casino-style games for free, like online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Plus, I get a daily login bonus. It's just too bad that up here, I don't have anyone to share my excitement with. Woohoo!
Live the Chumba life. Anytime, anywhere. Play for free now at ChumbaCasino.com. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.